Welcome to Rick on Real Estate. I'm Rick Van Wieren from RE/MAX Properties, and I have with me here as a special guest Ashley Bush, co-owner of Legacy Title here in Colorado Springs. This is a special edition that we're doing for Halloween. This is going to be the horror story episode, and Ashley's going to tell us a few horror stories and what they've run into out in the field with the environment we have today. Ashley, thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This is kind of a weird topic, I know, because who wants to talk about what can go wrong?
What can go wrong, yeah.
But the fact is you do insurance, and there's a lot of things that you're doing to safeguard people's assets,
right.
And people wonder, well, why would they need safeguarding? And so talk to me about some of the things you're starting to see or have seen in the past. You've been doing it a while.
We've come across quite a few things in the time that I've done it. One of the big things right now is the wire fraud. So when companies start seeing this happen, the word spreads quickly, and we all start scrambling to figure out how we can protect our customers, ourselves, from having those type of issues. So like I said, the big one right now is the wire fraud. And the basic thing is you're getting wiring instructions from title companies, and somehow, somewhere along the way, emails are getting hacked.
Wow.
And information is being taken and fraudulently put in with their information, and wires are going to Never Land. And so that's been one of our big issues as of late. You know, seems like every year we have something new, but this is the new one. So.
Boy. And I thought duplicate Facebook requests were a big problem. Here we find out that people are figuring out ways to screw around with the wiring instructions. So one of the best ways that I've told my clients to make sure they've got very safe wiring instructions is either to get them by talking to you, or actually going in and making sure that they've got their wiring instructions straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. Are those good, adequate ways to safeguard?
What we are doing always is we are, if you have a buyer that's wanting to wire funds in, we are saying we want their phone number. We want to call them, get them on the phone, email them those wire instructions, and while they're on the phone, verifying that email that they received is from us.
Gotcha.
We've looked at all different ways of doing it, and we found every different way besides this. Really, you could have a potential problem.
Open a problem.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's really good to know.
Yep.
I had heard that there was at one point a scam going around where people were trying to float counterfeit cashier's checks.
Okay.
How did that all come about?
Well, and that's been years. So for a long time, we weren't, as title companies, there were some title companies that had made the decision not to accept cashier's checks anymore because of the fraud. Wow. So they were able to get, cashier's checks are numbered, and they go from East Coast to West Coast. So if you were getting a cashier's check, which you think is good funds, and you're receiving it, if it's from the East Coast and it was fraudulently done, it takes a couple days before we figure out it's been fraudulently done because it's on a bank.
Wow.
And we've received some overnighted to us. I've had one, it's probably been about 6 months, where I had one come to us. We ended up calling the bank that the cashier's check was drawn on. It was not drawn on one of their checks.
Wow.
So it's just safeguarding and making sure we're paying attention to the money's coming in and out, and making sure where they're coming from.
Well, we appreciate you guys paying attention to it, because this is a big investment for people. And when you're talking about either your proceeds from the sale of your house or money that you're bringing to the closing, you know, if you're putting 20% down or paying cash for a home, which does happen, we appreciate the fact that you guys are being diligent about kind of monitoring all that. One of the things that I notice at every closing is that they always take copies of IDs at closing. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about kind of how that came to be, and why is that? Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, on a notary basis, as a notary, to be able to notarize documents for individuals, we are required to have a picture ID. So we get that. So the other side of that is for us on the closing end, we want to make sure the document that you're signing and that we're notarizing is actually you, is actually the person signing, because obviously we are giving title insurance clear title, and it would not be clear title if one of the parties did not sign off on it.
Gotcha. So for acceptable ID for people to bring to closing, I mean, is a military ID or a driver's license pretty sufficient typically?
It's sufficient. Military IDs, we have found recently that the military really doesn't like us taking copies of their IDs. So we would take it usually on a last come, like if that's the only ID they have, we will take that. But yes, driver's license, passports, your names have to match. So if you were married recently or divorced recently, make sure you talk to your closer before you get to closing. Normally that's a marriage certificate or a divorce decree that we can look at and verify that picture ID is still you.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I know we just had a closing just in the last month and a half or so where a couple had been married actually quite a while, but the IDs never were changed, and so we had some
title had not changed. They didn't deed into the married name, and we get that a lot.
So it's a good idea when you get married, if you aren't married at the time you buy your house, when you get married, to make sure that you get those kind of changes done. They're easy and very inexpensive to do.
Correct.
Ashley and her group take care of things like that for people. Quitclaim deeds too. Sometimes I guess you handle those kinds of things.
You
for
can.
people.
We like to do that based off of if you're changing your name, we can prepare something like that with your with the client's authorization. We're not attorneys. We can't prepare.
Right.
But in that case, yes, we could just say, you got married. We understand. We can help you with that.
Gotcha. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for kind of sharing some of those. It wasn't really all that scary, was it? Because after all, how many of us really are wiring huge amounts of money around? But in all fairness, you really do have to be careful with these things. So thank you, Ashley, for watching out for our buyers and sellers funds, and for all you do for us. We really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us again on Rick on Real Estate.